Good morning. So delighted to be joined by Paula Strickland this morning. This is all about our Women in Finance series 2021. And also we'll be launching this on International Women's Day, which is this Monday, the 8th of March. So good morning, Paula. Thanks so much for joining me. I know we've known each other for probably 10 plus years now. So really appreciate you joining us. I think you add some great value to this. So I'll let you introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Paula Strickland. I have 20 years plus now of experience in finance, all walks of finance, from operational to technical to finance business partnering and the executive leadership. I've worked for a number of different size companies and organisations ranging from 6 billion turnover companies like Virgin Media to the small local charities like St Barnabas and Chestnut Tree House, which is around the corner from me. They do great stuff.
And I think we probably have known each other, I'd say 10 years. It's probably when you moved on, maybe from Amex, maybe not quite as long as 10 years. It feels like that.
Yeah, I had my children during my Amex period, and Jack is actually 9 on Saturday. So it will be 10 years. It will be 10 years this child, yeah.
Time flies in finance, all that fun we have.
Well, fun.
So I suppose it leads me on really nicely. So take your mind back. Why was finance the career? What brought you into it?
A bit of a funny one, but I'm from a modest background. My dad's a painter and decorator, and I never even knew what accounting or finance actually was, to be honest with you. And I always remember thinking, oh, I love playing Monopoly and all that money. What would it be different like if I had a slightly different life and playing with the money? But that was just, child's play. But my mum was a childminder for a period of time, and one of her children, his father used to go to London and collect, to work in the city. And he'd turn up at the house all in suits and talking about finance. And my mum, I was always quite a clever girl at school, and my mum would always used to be boastful, saying how clever Paula was. And one day he turned around and said to me, well, she should become an accountant or work in finance if she's good with numbers. And
that's the link.
Yeah, and I remember him going on a conference and bringing back this silver, this is back in obviously the 80s, but silver business card holder, and gave it to me. It's one of these things that you pick up when you go around to these career fairs. And I thought that was wonderful. So I remember playing with my Monopoly money and my business card, pretending that I was going to go into business one day. And it all stemmed from there, really. So my A-levels and my degree and everything followed that finance path.
Yeah, no, definitely. Got business cards. Thing of the past now, isn't it?
I know. But I actually met up with Patrick a couple of years back, actually. He's now the CEO of the Irish Football Federation, I believe.
Okay.
In Belfast. So I went over there and met him for a mentoring period, and I explained this story to him, and he was quite taken back. And I was like, well, it's those snippets, silly things like that actually do make that imprint on your. Yeah. Even though it was so small to him, to me it was like, oh wow, my life could be different to being a stay-at-home mum, which is no problems, or painter decorator's daughter. It could be different.
Yeah. So, it's weird. It's so weird. Everyone has like a different story of it, doesn't there? It's always that thing. Oh, they're good with numbers. They should work in finance. That's great.
Yeah, and actually, the majority of my financial career has been in things like transformation or technical accounting, reading contracts and advising on different types of transactions, or actually most recently doing leadership roles like with Virgin, where I was leading females in finance and finance engagement. So it's actually been, whilst obviously there's always numbers at the heart of it, it's been my career's been slightly different to the number crunching that you always traditionally associate a finance or accounting.
Yeah. And I was really keen to sort of speak to you this morning about this. I think I always say to you about you've got a sort of big personality in finance, and do you think, obviously it's a very male dominated environment, is it been difficult for you in terms of progression into these sort of real senior finance leadership roles?
Yeah, I think for a number of reasons, not just because I'm a finance. So I think the couple of struggles that I've had on the way, and obviously I've been in it 20 odd years plus now. Obviously my background was one of them, and I went to Brighton University, local university, but again, it could be, I could have gone to a better one, but personal circumstances didn't allow, and that sometimes has hindered me. Network has also hindered me, and I think that's sometimes probably to do with the background that I have. I haven't been brought up in an environment where I know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody.
Really good point.
So my network now, which is brilliant, and I have had to create from scratch. And I think as we probably talk about some of the more specific women in finance items, network for me is really key to help growing your career. But then the female element has hindered. I've got a couple of examples where I won't mention any of the names of the people or the companies.
No, please do.
I remember the period of time, and it's still actually is today, but my late 20s and early 30s, when I was getting married and what have you, I remember going for a promotional role, and it was in London, and the company was local to me, had a local office as well. And they said to me, why do you want to go to London when your family are around the corner? And I wasn't married at the time. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, and the gentleman said to me, well, your parents are on hand, they'd be brilliant for childcare. And I'm like, I don't have children. I'm just about getting married. And that still sticks with me, because that's what that person thought I was of that particular age. Now, I've never given any indications, about wanting to do that. I have done that. I did want to do it, but it was never at the front of the conversation. And another one, for example, I got promoted into a finance director role, and I walked into the board that particular day, and as the new FD, and one guy asked me, I'll have a cup of tea, love, we won't want sugar. And I'm like, seriously, that was so archaic, and things that you actually wouldn't believe. So there's been definitely situations where it knocks your confidence along the way, but I'm a very strong, as you can, strong individual, and I say it how I see it, and that's always helped me along the way to be that upfront and what have you. But it has been not a battle, but there's always been the if I'm interviewing for a role, I go into a board meeting, it's likely that I'm probably the one or two of the only females there, and that's doesn't shock me anymore, but it has certainly taken, had some impression on my career as I've gone through.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, back to, like I said to you about sort of having known you and your personality, that's why I'm really keen to talk to you, because let's put it bluntly, I know you wouldn't take any crap from those sort of comments, from people, and I think it's just really interesting for anyone that does listen. And I suppose what I'm keen to sort of to get out of today as well is just what advice you could potentially give to people, or to women that are aiming for these senior leadership roles from what you've been through. I'd like to think now, with the last few years, that hopefully you don't get those environments where it's such stereotype questioning and interviews about childcare, and the example you gave, I'd like to think that's starting to go, but who knows, who knows? I
had a conversation with someone only a couple of days ago, and they just dropped it in, oh, you're only still young, you got any more kids, planning to have kids? Because obviously my two are 7 and 8, and I was like, my natural interest was just like, absolutely not, I'm too old, I've got 2 boys, and I've got horses, and I've got too much stuff. But when I came away from that, I thought, I think he was trying to be genuinely interested in my personal life, to build that rapport. But at the back, there's always that, going back 10, 15 years to that original conversation I had.
It's this sort of, the thing people think is like the childcare automatically falls back onto the woman, doesn't they? But nowadays, I like to think in most cases, people are spreading the childcare. Do you mean it's a real partnership between people to do it, isn't it? So I'm sure you don't do
especially like during the last year.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm?
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, I'm sure you don't
In the
expect.
last year with COVID,
Yeah,
exactly. You've got me working in one, my husband working in the other, and the kids are luckily I've got a lot of teams and lessons, but you still have to watch them and help them. And it's definitely been and there's a whole load of things that I know when I was working at Virgin that we were doing to really encourage the father and the childcare around that. So whether it be really pushing paternity leave or flexible working, so everybody, and it's not a male and a female thing, it's a collective. It should
totally.
Just by having this conversation, oh, mum can have flexible working and dads have got paternity, that's already bringing in that male female.
I agree. Yeah. Did Virgin do that initiative with the shared paternity, the shared leave, like the mat leave? You can sort of have half and half, because there's a lot of the bigger. I think Unilever do it. I'm sure there's other companies that do it as well, where they do that. Did they offer that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. And a member of my team actually took that opportunity to do some leave, and I think he was out for a couple of months actually doing that shared child leave. But Virgin were really good in a lot of things that they were doing, and there's obviously always areas of improvement, but they were looking at like flexible working and thinking about how you would not just change your hours, your days, but how you can move around different parts of the country.
Yeah.
And how you can move around different parts of the finance or non-finance teams. Really thinking about engagement collectively. And that was one of the reasons that was behind my female in finance. It was really about trying to provide development opportunities to women around their leadership style, because a lot of the, going back to the female in finance, a lot of the reasons when I spoke to a handful of women about why aren't you going for these more senior roles, it was really around, well, the job descriptions are written to be more towards the males. There's certain things on that job description I can't do, and well, I don't know if I can take that or do all of that work in along with my personal commitments, and the list just kept going. And so it was a bit of an eye-opener to say, well, actually there's a lot of leadership skills we can do, mentoring we can do to really build up that confidence that women can do those jobs.
Definitely.
And there's tools there to support them to do so. So it was really, it was a good.
Did you lead on that initiative then at Virgin Media? Was it called Women in Finance, or what was?
Women in Finance, yeah. So myself and two other directors, Louise Roach at the time was property, and Melissa Renham, that was HR director for finance. We all reported into Robert Dunn, CFO. We all three of us, it's primarily me that took the lead initially.
Fantastic.
All three of us as senior females led on that. But because it linked really nicely with the engagement work that I was doing collectively, sort of sat more, I guess, in kind of my remit, because what I've really learned is that the female in finance, we can sit there and say we want to do this and we want to do that and we should have this and should that, but it's a collective. You need male support. You need male. It's a male and a female responsibility to ensure equality.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Yeah, it's got to work together, isn't it?
Yeah. So we did have a male FDs and more junior males within that team as well, to give them their idea around childcare, working from home, flexible working, everything really, their own development. And so it came quite natural fit into the engagement.
Yeah. What would you say is sort of the biggest success that came out of that, would you say, from the time of leading on that initiative?
The biggest success, I think it was around the openness. I remember having so many emails or phone calls. I actually got a phone call from a gentleman for me. So the success was my own. It was ones that touched my heart, really, saying that actually, Paula, you've been really open and honest on how you do it. And if you can do it, then actually we can too. And it was really, a lot of companies or people talk about women in finance and all these things that we should do, but it's actually having, I guess, someone there who's been there, done that, that can offer that advice and actually prove that there's proof in the pudding, as it were. And so I think because Virgin Media particularly was trying to go towards a 50-50 gender makeup, and obviously I've left there now almost a year or so ago now, so I don't know where they are on that initiative, but it was really good for them to actually be able to demonstrate what they were obviously trying to achieve and actually being successful at that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And I think what came out of that were a couple of things like, as you say, making job descriptions, not, was it removing the unbiased consciousness around the female and the male wording around that, and really mentoring, big thing that came out of that, saying, well, actually we need to really push the mentoring.
Yeah, definitely.
And I have mentors, I've had change mentors over my career, and I've found everybody has different things, and if you don't need just one mentor, and everybody you'll encounter different situations or different personal, work related or career aspirations, and everybody will have a different view or different advice that they can offer. And so I think that also came across, that you need to have a supportive team or a supportive network around you that you can tap into.
Oh, definitely. So what the stat at the moment was it 15% of FTSE CFOs are women? So obviously very low, and I know there's a lot of work going into sort of improving that. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think that's realistically that's going to change in the next few years? What would need to be different?
I think, before the COVID situation, I think there was an awful lot of work that was going into by businesses, by media, by everything, and I definitely think that, even the COVID where we're working at home, we don't need to go to the office. I think that whole aspect has changed, and we don't need to work the way we were working, regardless. And I think that will absolutely help.
Totally agree.
How the gender split. Obviously, I mean, I'm thinking about some of the things that need to happen. It's definitely that network piece. I can't get over that, because one of the companies I worked for, it was definitely a man's club. It was definitely, I know you, you know me. That's and and even though we're not in the office or outgoing networking, in face to face, there are so many things that you can do online, even just having conversations like you and I are having, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
In the room, right? So I think, that does open a few avenues for women to be able to tap into. Obviously that links really nicely into the flexible workplace. So again, I think that is just an added bonus. So do you know what? I think there's a lot of stuff that has been done. More females, not just CFOs, CEOs
of course. C-suite across the whole.
And I think it's this last year has certainly helped, I think, in that, especially when the kids go back next week.
Oh god, everyone's counted down the days, aren't they? I know. Yeah. It's when's Monday coming? It's I think everyone feels the same there. Well, your kids are slightly younger, aren't they? So I think even more.
7 and soon to be 9 next week. Oh,
it is a challenge. Is there anyone, I suppose, from your sort of career in finance, or even maybe you haven't even worked for, is there anyone you admire from a sort of a female perspective in their sort of senior roles?
So I've Catherine Lynch, she's on my LinkedIn, she's my profile. I've followed her from a couple of different places in my career.
Okay.
I met her when I was at Towergate Insurance, and she introduced me to Robert Dunn at Virgin Media. Chief People Officer. She has always been someone that I've looked up to and admire because of her strong personality, her drive, and her wanting to create an environment of equality, and it's open to everyone. And for me, I've kept in contact with her for the years. She's obviously seen me of what I can do from a finance perspective. And for me, whatever job that I want to go for, or whatever company I work for, people are very important to me. That's really come out with obviously the work that I've spoken about. But teamwork, I can only be as good as my team. My team can only be as good as me. And so people really care. So I guess from a female perspective, I've always looked up to her and asked for her for advice or career support as and when I needed to, because I've seen her along the journey as well. So she's the obvious one that springs to mind, and hopefully she'll see this all.
We'll tag her in now, Paula. So that's such nice things.
Yeah, I mean, it seems every job I go for, or she knows somebody because of her network, and she's got such a huge network, and that is admirable as well, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, back to the whole sort of point why I asked you today, I just think if we do get this sort of shared across the relevant networks, that there will be people that might sort of listen to this and think, they may reach out to you, hopefully you don't mind, but for some advice. But I think it's the more we can share of like experiences like this, the better, really, because we need more people, more women going into these leadership roles, and the advice you can offer, like you did with Catherine, having that sort of person to speak to about, even if you're going for an interview, or the network of knowing someone in the company, it is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Okay, so I think that covers it really nicely in terms of sort of the women in finance and your career. I also thought, and I said this to you off record, that I think it would be a really good opportunity for us to touch on what you're doing now. Because you started telling me the other day about sort of a sort of business interest you're looking at. You're potentially looking at interim work as well. So I think that's a good chance to talk about that, because you never know what comes of this. And I know we've placed you on a few occasions into your roles. So tell us a bit about that now. So
obviously I left Virgin Media at the early 2020 now, just before the pandemic, to really think about my work-life balance and where I wanted my career to go. And at that point, I had a quite a clear path on how I wanted to spend the next 5 years. COVID come along and completely turned that 360, as it were. So over the last period, over the last year, I've been really trying to do some different things for what I'm passionate about. And as I mentioned about development, career development, it feels nicely into people. It fits nicely into this e-learning, it's on-demand learning that I've been developing with a business partner and an online platform provider, Nucleus Platforms. Really good company. And it's about not just your finance learning, because we can all tap into IFRS 102, IFRS 1, IFRS 2, all online.
Don't go too technical with me.
Is it in abundance? But for me, it's really about the so what, because as a technical accountant, you can go in and look at a transaction and say, well, the accounting is this, but actually, how can we add value? Because as I've seen through the years in transformation, and the finance back office always taking a hit when it comes to cost cutting. How can we make our finance people more value add, rather than just the book says this, or this is what the answer is? So for me, it's really to develop my online on-demand learning that really takes the fundamentals of accounting and theory, but really takes it all the way through to, well, what does that mean if I'm a finance business partner having a conversation with another commercial partner or a supplier, or actually, how can I really put some of the technical accounting into my 5-year strategy? How can I make it, work for me, or things like that? So, and actually, what have been the pitfalls along the way? What things you should be avoiding, and actually, that's no. So that online learning there is really taking the basics and putting it into much more value add, and how can the finance individual be more value add. So that will be available in the next month or so as we've finished building this out.
Brilliant.
So I'm really passionate behind that. And over the last year thought, well, how can I take all my skill sets and really help some local charities? So as I said, I've been helping St Barnabas and Chestnut Tree with their finance elements as well, and their team and their structure. So now that those they're coming to, not to an end, I suppose, because they'll always be in the background, but I'm now at the point where I'd like to try and put some of that, my skill set, to help other companies, whether it be in a transformation perspective, whether it be in a people development from a finance perspective, whether it be from a technical element. I've worked in as financial controllers, finance directors, CFOs. I've done lots. You
can tick all the boxes now, can't you?
Yeah. So I'd like to be able to add some value, if I can, over the next few months as we continue to. So
more sort of an interim perspective. Is that what you're thinking from a suits you now?
Yeah, I think so, because we don't know what next year's going to be like anyway, from what happens in 6 months, let alone what's going to be in a year. So I think from an interim perspective, I can really help companies make their finance teams more efficient, their processes more effective, and that's where I'm open to supporting where I can. Perfect.
Well, hopefully the message will get out there. Thank you as always for your time. It's always great to speak to you. Like I said, I'm really hoping that this will help out certain people, so we'll get it out there across LinkedIn. And like I said, are you happy if anyone did want to reach out to you for any sort of questions or support?
No, absolutely. I can't, if anything, over the last 20 years, network and mentoring would be my key takeaways, and then obviously the development on top of that. That's I can't push that enough. So I'm happy to provide direction or whatever.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks so much for your time, Paula.
No worries.
Cheers. Catch up soon.
See you soon.
Cheers.